Again, hello again. So we're going to go over 1-point perspective. And you don't, some of you do a lot of writing what the project thing is on your actual piece. You don't have to do that. It's nice to see your work without kind of labeling everything. The design of your piece, whatever project you're doing, is sort of what you have on the paper. You're writing down project number or something like that isn't sort of part of the design of the piece. So don't necessarily do it. You could write it on the back for yourself, but you're going to post it in the proper discussion thing, so it should be okay. But don't write it on the front. Anyway, so 1-point perspective, we start out with, it only has one vanishing point, but we have to start out with a horizon line. And usually, your horizon line should be parallel to the picture plane and going horizontal. That doesn't mean it's always going to be like that. You could do some dramatic things with shifting that around and changing that. And like if your horizon line was like that, sometimes, and one of the examples, the horizon line is actually right in the center of the ground. It's like a view, it's 1-point perspective with a view from above. And you're looking, so your horizon line becomes that road line. Some of those examples on D2L have that. But generally, your horizon line is kind of like along where the horizon is. And again, that can change. It'll change dramatically where that horizon line is, so you can kind of play with that. I'm going to put the horizon line for this simple demo. I will put the horizon line about where we normally would think about it as, generally in kind of images and pictures. All right. So I'm just going to take my ruler and have it horizontally across there. Hopefully, there's not too much distortion with the. Yeah, there is. Of course, there is. Yeah, my paper's askew, but the image on the screen looks like it might be right. So that's my horizon line. Now I can put my vanishing point. It could be anywhere. Your vanishing point is kind of like where your eye would be going. If you imagine standing somewhere and looking at one point on the horizon. I could put it over here. I could put it in the middle. A lot of times people put it in the middle. You can put it on the side. We'll put it right here in the middle to give us the maximum. So I can mark that because, and also if you're doing this and you're going to make a drawing eventually, you kind of do this. I'm using a little bit darker. I'm doing these darker so you can see them, but you might mark it actually even lighter than that. And I'll actually, and I just said not to label things, but for the sake of this demo, I'll put VP there. You don't have to do that. Vanishing point, not vice principal. Anyway, so 1-point perspective is kind of like you're looking at it dead on. So if you have, and again, linear perspective only works really with things with parallel lines, like a geometrically, a cube or a rectangular form. So in nature or in the world, buildings, boxes, furniture sometimes have those. If you have something without parallel lines, it kind of doesn't work really. Sometimes people will take like a cylinder or something or an organic shape and draw a box and do the vanishing lines, and then that helps them figure out how much it would taper in the distance. But anyway, so we're going to start out with, and a ruler is important. You don't have to have one. This is a crazy old ruler I have. But also a square can come in handy. Now you might have a card or something around your, I know you guys are all doing this at home and stuff like that. So you might have a card or something you can utilize. I forgot to turn on the light. There we go. But you can utilize a square, anything to give you a 90-degree angle. And again, I'm going to try to keep this, just to keep it simple. I mean, linear perspective, the way we're going to do it right now is in some imaginary world where everything is perfectly flat. And that's when they started if you think about historically where it came from, think architecture, kind of more planned areas, and then structures being more, set in a flat, floor plan and stuff, or foundation and stuff like that. It was more visible, whereas in really natural environments, it's hard to see these sorts of things. But again, it's a sort of phenomenon of when you look at a flat thing with parallel lines, like a wall or a road, and you're looking down it, it tends to taper. But with 1-point perspective, you're looking dead on at the front of your object. So we'll use a square. So it would be that square shape. Okay, so I'm just going to do that. And I'm going to use this, carefully line it up there as best I can. Not too good, but you know, I like to demonstrate imperfection. I'm good at that. Exciting world. All right, so I got a square-ish, not perfectly square. Another way, when I say square, I don't necessarily mean this length is matching this length, although it's pretty close. What I mean is that I have 90 degrees angle. So this could be, you know, a rectangular shape as well. We'll do some of those. One way to check that, if you're ever in the field or like you didn't want to utilize this or you weren't sure, would be to measure diagonals. So whatever, if this measurement matches that measurement, your shape should be square. Okay. And again, notice I'm making smudges everywhere that I could figure out what I did with my eraser. I can go back in and erase when I'm done. Clean it up a little bit. Make sure to try to clean your things up as best you can, okay? I should probably clean my eraser. Anyhow, so then I'm going to get rid of the square. Let's use this little guy. And you can use your longer ruler for this. I'm just doing it because it's kind of keeping bumping into computer stuff and everything. So I take that vanishing point. Now that this is, if you want to imagine this is a box or a building or anything. I can take this line, and I'm going to do this thing where you put, oh, I lost my pencil, dashed lines so that you can see where the lines are, that they are going to the vanishing point. You don't necessarily have to do the dashed lines, but I'm going to do them just for the heck of it. So I'm going to take all these 3 points. So this one, the top and the sides of this front are all parallel to each other in my drawing. Another problem with linear perspective is that things in our world aren't always, even things that are supposed to be parallel, aren't necessarily parallel. If you've ever had to put a shelf in a corner room. Now I just missed it by a little bit. That's why you shouldn't talk when you're... Anyway. So basically, and you might have done, this is one that you probably have done, a lot of you have come in, you know, done your name or something, like they did block letters in grade school and stuff like that. Those little projects. All right, so look how far off I am there. I could improve that a little bit. Again, don't talk. I know it's hard at home too. Anyway, close enough. Anyhow, so those are kind of where those lines. So now I could figure out like how, you know, is this going to be square this way? How far do I want it to go back? Do I want it to go along building? It tapers back all the way back here. But I'm going to put my, how far I want that. I'm going to keep that parallel. This line and this back part of it will be parallel. So imagine there's another perfectly square thing of this, but smaller behind it. And can I hold the ruler parallel? Yes or no? Probably not. Same thing with this. This line, I'm going to connect it with this, but I want to keep that. I don't want to go like that. I don't want to go like that. I don't want to go like that. I want to try to get it parallel as possible. Sorry, I'm sniffling. All right, then I can go in. Now that I know where those end, I can go in and make these kind of harder lines because they were kind of dashed. Even though I didn't quite get them lined up perfectly. So then I have that. And that's a pretty simple cube. So you're looking at it, it's tapering down. Not perfect, could have fudged this up. Look at this error. Big red X. Anyway, so that's from that point. So when we change that position of that object, say we did it over here. Let's do it way. Sometimes when you get way off to the edges, away from the vanishing point, and when we get into 2D, 2-point perspective, I mean, whoa, no, now I messed up the whole thing. Let me get that lined up again. Okay. There is this thing outside of a certain range, it starts to distort. This is just sort of a mathematical kind of thing. And you can see my messy lines up here. Anyway, and you can see how, don't drag your thing around like that, because look what it's done. Unless, of course, you want that kind of look to things. So I'm going to put another building. We're going to go up here in the front. another building. We'll think of these as buildings. And then we get square. And we'll make this one. Whoops. Oh, don't do it that way. Flip it around. That's square? It doesn't look square to me. I had a friend who once said, square and parallel parking are highly overrated. Yeah, well, try to keep it relatively square, organic. Looks like it's tilting a little bit. I seem to be.